and welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Sarah, and in today's video I will be showing you how to crochet these jellyfish. Some of you may or may not have seen my previous tutorial, and it's a bigger version of these guys. So these guys are a little bit smaller, they work up faster. Obviously the tentacles are shorter, so all around just a faster thing to work up. These guys I made with a double-stranded size 4 velvet. So I used 2 strands at once. It gave me a nice tentacle color, and then the base is just 2 of the same color. For these I used a 5mm hook, and then for this guy here, he's featured in the written pattern if you're interested in that, and I made him with a Skinny Chenille, so size 4 Chenille yarn, and a 3mm hook. So if you're interested in the written pattern, I will have it linked in the description. It's available in my coffee shop, and this guy is the pattern photos for it. If you're interested in that, make sure to check it out. Other than that, let's get right into the material list. For materials, we will need some yarn. So today I will be working with Snuggles Lite, so a size 6 Chenille yarn. And with that yarn, I'll be using a 5mm hook. Now use whatever hook works best for you. This is just the one I prefer using. You also need a pair of scissors, a sewing needle, a pair of safety eyes. I believe these are 22mm, but I will have them on the screen. So whatever is written up there is the correct size. For yarn, because I forgot to mention, you will need at least 2 colors, and you can use more for the tentacles if you'd like. To begin, we're going to make the tentacles. So I already have 5 of them made, and I will show you how to make the 6th one. And just so you're all aware, you can adjust the size of the tentacles by reducing or increasing the amount of chains you put into the beginning. That way you can make them longer or shorter. For the base pattern, we're going to create a slip knot under our hook, and you want to leave an end long enough so that you can tie a few knots with them. So just a good length of yarn, especially if you're working with Chenille yarn where it tends to fall apart a little bit more, leave it a little bit longer. So now we're going to chain 20. And once you have 20 chains, you're going to turn your work, and I like to work into the back humps of these chains, but you can work into the top loops, just whatever's easier for you. You're not going to see this part very much. So now we're going to increase, so 2 single crochets in each chain all the way down. Once you've finished those increases, go ahead and chain 1 and fasten off, again leaving just enough of a tail to tie a few knots later on. So like I said earlier, go ahead and repeat making your tentacles 6 more times. Make sure they're all the same length if you end up adjusting the size at all. And you can also add more tentacles if you'd like, or less. I would recommend making the base pattern first and then deciding on your future projects whether you'd want to add more or not. So now I'm going to go ahead and start on the base. So it's this part underneath, so that where we attach the tentacles to. So for that, you're going to use your body color, so whichever color you're going to use for the main part of the body. And I'm actually going to start my magic ring with some acrylic yarn. So I show how to do this in a tips and tricks video, which I'll have linked up here, and I'll show you how to do it right now as well. To begin, you will need any size 4 yarn. I will just be using acrylic for this, and you're just going to need a good length of yarn. And you're going to need 2 of these, just so you know. So for this first one, what I'm going to do is just wrap this yarn around my fingers like I would normally if I were to start a magic ring. And I'll hold it with my pointer finger onto my hook. We're going to go ahead and yarn over with the chenille yarn, pull it through, and then chain 1. And there's our magic ring started. So go ahead and single crochet 6 into this magic ring. Now if you use the chain 2 method or any other method, go ahead and use that. Just make sure you have 6 single crochets in that first round. And once you're finished, we're going to move on to round 2, where we will increase in each stitch around, so a total of 6 times. For round 3, we're going to increase and then single crochet, and you'll go ahead and repeat that 6 times or all the way around. And that is the end of round 3. For round 4, we're going to increase, single crochet 2, and repeat that 6 times or all the way around. And there we are. So that was the final round for this piece. We're going to go ahead and slip stitch, chain 1, and fasten off. And you're just going to need a real small end on this one. We aren't going to be doing anything with this, but tuck that right in. So now I'm going to go ahead and secure my magic ring. So I'm just going to tie everything nice and tight together, pull it nice and tight, and give it a couple good knots. Just like that. And now we are going to attach the tentacles to this piece. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to be joining the tentacles between the second to last and last round of this piece. And you want to have about 1 to 2 stitches between each of them. So I'm going to begin on the seam. This is where I like to start. So you're going to insert your hook from the wrong side of the fabric to the right side, and you're going to pull up a tail. Now I recommend keeping this side of the tentacle facing outward, facing towards you, because it sits better than if you do it this direction where the tentacle kind of sits a little bit weird. So I'm going to pull up this loop first, just one of these ends, and pull it right through, and then I'm going to go right over into the next stitch. So this is going to be a little bit of a jump because this is where the seam is. It's not going to be noticeable though. And you're going to go ahead and pull the other end through the next stitch. So just one stitch away. And then you're going to pull this tight enough that both the slip knot pops through and then that chain pops through, just to keep that nice and clean on the outside. And you're just going to go ahead and give it 2 nice knots. And we're actually going to come back and secure that once we get all of them on. But first we're going to do the next one. So go ahead and move over. You should have a full stitch or 2 between, between each tentacle. It's not an exact science, it doesn't really matter. You just want to try and space them out as best you can. Go ahead and pull up a loop, go 1 stitch over, pull up the other end through, and then go ahead and tie these 2 tails together. So you're just going to go ahead and repeat this with all 6 tentacles, about 1 to 2 stitches away, pull ends through, and then tie them together. When you're about halfway through, you just want to make sure you're on the right track and everything looks like it'll balance out. Otherwise, you might need to space them apart a tiny bit more. So that's 3, and I can see that I have a little bit more than half left, so I'm going to start moving over 2 stitches and continue attaching the tentacles. And there we are, the last tentacle is attached, so now you can kind of see what it's starting to look like. So before we move on to the head, I do like to secure these knots one more time. What I like to do is just take one end from both tentacles and tie them together. Now you don't want to tie them too tight that you start moving the fabric around. You don't want to create like a strange seam on the bottom. So just tie them enough that they are taut, but not enough to misshape the bottom. Hopefully that makes sense. And there we are. So all these ends are nice and secure, they're not going to go anywhere. And now we can work on the head. For the head, we're going to begin in the same way as we did with the underside. So we're going to go ahead and make a magic ring. I'll be using the acrylic string method for this. I'll cut this in half though because I cut it way too long. There we go. Go ahead and put 6 single crochets into that first round. When you're finished, go ahead and close up that magic ring, or your chain 2 method, whichever method you decide to use. And now for round 2, we're going to increase in each stitch for a total of 6 times. For round 3, we will increase and then single crochet and repeat that 6 times or all the way around. For the next round, we're going to increase and then single crochet 2, and we'll repeat that 6 times or all the way around. And for our final increase round, we will increase and then single crochet 3 and repeat that 6 times or all the way around. And once you've finished all your increased rounds, we're going to go ahead and single crochet in each stitch round for 4 rounds total. For the next round, we're going to decrease, single crochet 3, and repeat that 6 times or all the way around. Once this step is done, we're going to insert safety eyes if using. If you don't want to use safety eyes, you can embroider your eyes. I have a little tutorial up there for you. But for eye placement, I like to put them between the last 2 single crochet rounds, sorry. And I like to space them about 5 to 6 clear spaces apart, depending on how you want to look. So this right here is 6 stitches apart, and that is where I will place them. So go ahead and put those backs on. I also have the actual round count on the screen if you prefer counting rather than counting the rounds out rather than just eyeballing it. So now we are going to attach the head to the base. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch of the head, and then we're going to go ahead and insert it into the slip stitch on the underside of the tentacles. You want to make sure that the Tentacles are facing out, the ends are facing in, so they can go into the body and just be done with. So I like to start here because it's just a nice starting point, but you can really put your hook into any part of the underside of the jellyfish. But for this one, we're going to pull through all of our loops on our hook. So we're going to slip stitch here. And then throughout this entire round, we're going to go between both sides of both the head and the underside and just crochet through all of them as if they are one layer. And I'm going to go ahead and double crochet 2 times into the next stitch. So I put 2 double crochets into that next stitch, and then into the next stitch we're going to slip stitch. So now we're just going to repeat these 2 double crochets and then the slip stitch all the way around. And when you're mostly closed, you should start stuffing as well. I recommend stuffing as far as you can when the hole is as small as you can. That it's much easier to crochet these 2 sides together when it is unstuffed. About this many stitches left, just a nice little hole, and I'm going to begin stuffing it now. The final stitch, you should end on 2 double crochets. What we're going to do is go ahead and slip stitch back on top of that previous slip stitch, the one we made when we first started this round. And you're going to leave a length of yarn, not too long, just long enough so that we can weave this in safely. So once you're finished, go ahead and beat it up a little bit, make sure the stuffing is all sitting well. If you need to, tear out a couple stitches and stuff some more. I had to do that on a couple of my jellyfish. It's just because the jellyfish is such a big head, it's a little bit harder to make sure it's all stuffed properly. Go ahead and adjust the border so that it all sits properly and pokes out rather than in, just like that. And now we're going to weave in this end real quick, so go ahead and get your sewing needle. What we're going to do is insert our needle through the back side, come out to the front, and we're going to leave a little knot here right against the border so it's not noticeable, and then go ahead and weave this in. And I'm just going to tuck the rest of it in with my scissors. I don't like to chop it because all these tiny scraps, they just sit around in my house. They don't actually do anything. So that's just an easy little tip to get rid of all that extra yarn scraps. And there we have our jellyfish complete. Make sure all the stuffing is where it should be. Give it a nice squish and your jellyfish is finished. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you finished your jellyfish, let me know in the comments below what colors you used and what yarn types you used. The Skinny Chenille is quite possibly my favorite, but everything's cuter when it's tinier. Don't forget to tag me on Instagram or Facebook if you do post about your finished jellyfish. I'd love to see it. And thank you all so much for watching to the end of this video. I will hopefully see you in my next tutorial or my next video, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye!